Hello and welcome to Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is July 17th, 2024. And we're going to follow up with Bitcoin here on the daily chart and some higher term timeframes. We might even look at some lower term timeframes, but we did have important closures on the 2 and 3 day where we did see some criteria met for breaking the downtrend on those timeframes. Now, Bitcoin is currently in an uptrending structure. Off of the lows here, we had the lower low close, but a higher low wick. We had a higher low come in over the weekend and then break the downtrend there at 59,500. Bitcoin subsequently regained that 60,300 low. This was the first major low in this downtrending structure here. And, the next area it needed to take out to the upside was the 63,800 wick high here. And we also have some historical resistance in this area between 64 and 65.5 at this lower high, the last lower high of the prior downtrend here. Now, if Bitcoin can close above 65.5, this wick high right here, and of course it would have to push up above its own wick high on a closing basis for continuation purposes. But if it does trade above 65.5, its current wick high at around 66,140 would be in play to this next lower high of this prior downtrend over here. That's at 67,272. Above there, and I would give it some room. If Bitcoin does push up to around 67, 200 to 300, I would give it some room to around $68,000. Any closes above 67,272 on the daily and higher term timeframes, and I would be looking for around $68,000 to $70,000 or so. Now, above there, I would be looking for Bitcoin to then run the actual all-time high structures up here, where we have, the failed double top over here. We essentially had the same kind of a look over here on these two highs as well. But, essentially around 71,500 to the all-time high at 73,835. And quite honestly, I'm going to show you in a moment here. Might not get too much into it until Friday. We'll see how price develops. But, I wouldn't necessarily be looking, even if Bitcoin were to make a new all-time high, I wouldn't be looking necessarily for the run just yet, although that is absolutely a possibility. But around the all-time high zone up here, that 71,500 to 73,835 at the all-time high, I would be giving it a zone of around $73,000 to $75,000. Now, safe pullback areas, well, it would be right where this high is, around that 63,800 to the close open structure here at 62,800. Anywhere below there, and I would be looking into the order block structure over here down below, somewhere around $62,000. If we did see $62,000 get closed below, it would be likely that Bitcoin would have already or start to head towards the $60,000 must recover zone. This is no longer a must recover zone, actually. This is going to be our safe pullback zone now. So we will change this. So this is still a safe pullback zone, or this would be a safe pullback zone. What I will tell you, though, is, the expansive structure that it's trying to paint on the lower term timeframes, would go back into a consolidation in an area like this. I'll show that in just a moment. We're going to call this the safe pullback zone. And, and we'll take a look at the 2, 3, and 4 day chart. So in this case, if Bitcoin were to head down, you can see that even after pushing up to around the $65,000 level on Monday, 64,800, it likes the 800 numbers on the way down and the way up here with the 62,800, 63,800, and then 64,800 on the first push and break of 63,800. But in this case, it did test back down to this high side structure and is currently consolidating around the 64 to 65.5 zone. This would actually be a nice strong consolidation if it can put in, a nice swing down. This is actually not a technical high. That would have to be put in below the wick low here at around that wick low is coming in at 62.5. So we've kind of even tested into this high side structure, into the top, almost the top side wicks of these order candles, or this order block specifically from Wednesday, which was June 26th. Now, in this case, that has been tested. So Bitcoin is trying to hold this zone on this high over here. Now, if it were to fall out of that area, I still would keep an eye on this prior high of the most recent downtrend at that 62,800, and then below there, I would give it room down to $62,000. If we start seeing closes below there, then the safe pullback zone is in play. I do not want to see price closing anywhere back below 58,400 here, the bottom side of the safe pullback zone, and anywhere near this danger zone. As it would start to paint the picture that Bitcoin would come back down to run the overall lows and maybe even go into a daily distribution. That's not my take on what's happening right now, but I do want to call that criteria out. Now, before we move on actually to the 2 and 3 day, let's go ahead and look at the daily momentum here. We can see that a regular Stoch is now going to be pivoted at 60,300, which, go figure, that momentum pivot is the actual top side of the safe pullback zone. That's 60,300. It's actually 60,263, and the pivot is 60,242. So, looks like we have some confluence there. This still looks strong. Still looks like it wants to head up. We can see RSI is trying to break into the bullish control zone here. It is not abnormal to see it rejecting in and around the bullish control zone. Now remember, RSI is measuring the close, so it's not gonna be reflective of the wick. So the bullish control zone is right there at 65.5. So go figure. The edge of the bullish control zone of RSI is at 65.5, and that just so happens to be. I already had oh, that's right. This was from the longer term time frames. That just so happens to be the top side of the current zone that Bitcoin is trading in. 65.5 is right here. So if it can break into the bullish control zone on a closing basis, that is going to look like Bitcoin closing above this wick high right here at 65.5. So very nice. Let's go ahead and look at the 2 day. So you can see here on the 2 day chart, it is going to close with today's daily. So it already got its trend break. The only other thing that we need to see develop from here on the 2 day is higher low structure. I like the look of this move. Looks good. It looks like it could even run all the way back to the highs before even pulling, just based on the structure alone, before pulling back. Now, the daily will, of course, inform that from here on out. But, momentum looks good. 56,300 is actually going to be the momentum pivot. We did see, I believe, no, it's a little far away from the bullish control zone, but even to get to it, it's at the highs at around 67,500. So again, bullish control zone for RSI is right around the run the highs line here at 67,272. So we're getting a lot of confluence with our horizontal support and resistance and our RSI here today. 3 day, we did get a downtrend break. Very good. Again, just like the 2 day, need to see higher low structure develop on the 3 day. It's going to take a little while. But as long as it's, trading here or above that $60,000, essentially, it's looking good. 4 day is the next closure that we need to see break its downtrend. So the 4 day downtrend break is that same 63,800. So we've already had the 2 day, 3 day break their downtrends above 63.8. Now we need to see if the 4 day is going to follow through. And we get a 2 day and 4 day closure at the same time as the daily today. So keep an eye on that 63.8 level. Let's look at momentum because it is starting to shift here. Yeah, at the end of today, it's very likely we're going to see a full-on momentum cross back to the upside for a regular Stoch. Again, for those that might be new to my analysis, this is not a Stoch RSI. Stoch RSI only measures the velocity or the speed of the RSI. I already use an RSI indicator, so I don't need an oscillator for this. I, in fact, use a regular stochastic momentum indicator. If you're interested in the settings and you do understand what those settings would be, I use a 6/3/14 255 look back for this indicator here. It's basically crypto optimized settings, but it can be used across any market. Now, the momentum pivot is what's important about this, and we can see that that's now basically at the higher low of the daily. For instance, in this case, the 4-day momentum pivot is at 56 rather 700. Any closes above there, that's pressure back onto the upside. In fact, RSI has thrown a signal as well, or could throw a signal by the end of today if it closes above the 12-period simple moving average. So we would have more than one confluence here, along with the downtrend break if it can do that. And the signal line is going to be any closes above $63,000. So, it's got a tight window. It has tested that area already, but closes above 63 would throw a signal on RSI. It's just a bullish signal in this case, crossing back up to the upside of the moving average, and then it would also get a cross up on the regular Stoke. Plus, if it can close above 63.8, it would get a trend break. That's all very, very bullish stuff. And essentially on a 4-day chart, pointing right back to the top of the range, maybe a smaller pullback from there. If I'm just kind of going to prognosticate, which is, by the way, not technical analysis at that point, but it is from the look of what I'm seeing here is like essentially it wants to go back to the top side of the range. Maybe a pullback prior to that on the daily. But from a 4-day perspective, maybe a 4-day pullback around the highs and then, breakthrough or something like that. You get the tap of the highs, come back down, and then off to the races. That's kind of the way that it's shaping up. We're going to throw some Bollinger Bands on here in just a second to see if that is going to remain true to my thoughts. And I did want to call this out. We have a 5-day potential low being set here, and that's going to be closing with today. So with today's closure of the daily, we're also going to get a 2-day, a 4-day, and a 5-day closure. So this is very good stuff. It's a good day to pay attention, which, it's in the Thursday candle, even though I am recording this on Wednesday still. It's just not Thursday for me yet. Now, the 5-day is something that you should be paying very close attention to. I don't think I need much more than, I'm not quite sure what I was doing with some of these other things. So I'm going to add this stuff to my accumulation distribution zones so that we can turn it off all at once. All right. It's very clear that this is a downtrending structure on the 5-day and subsequently on the weekly as well, as I showed on Monday's video. Now, this closing structure, now the swings are going to be different. I'm only going to be going from the swing high of the closing structure. So if we're looking at this from the closing high structures, we have a downtrend and a very clear one at that on the 5-day. This is going to be the same thing on the weekly here. Okay. So this is no different on the weekly, but it is important to understand that the last area to break to the upside here is this high right here, and that's $72,000, right where Bitcoin, basically double topped on the daily and sold off, because we do have a downtrending structure intact on a closing basis. We have like swing downtrends in between, and some shorter term time frame swing breaks and stuff like that, but that's not really what matters here. It's all about the closes in this case, and then also the higher high structure over here to higher low, lower high, lower low. Well, this is all shaping up to look like a bull flag, to be quite honest. There are going to be people that are going to draw, broadening wedges and stuff like that. If you're a pattern trader, this is more, on the longer term time frames, like the 5-day and weekly, it's shaping up to be like, an accumulation structure bull flag. If it went into like a little bit more distribution, it probably would start to paint a different reaccumulation structure, probably a Wyckoff structure. In fact, there's an argument to be made, and I'm not going to get deep into that in this stuff, but there is an argument to be made that there is a Wyckoff structure in play on the daily right now anyway. And I don't want to burden a lot of the newer people with that stuff, for those of you that have been around me for a long time, but you can go, now that I've said it, you can go and look and you'll see the Wyckoff structure. But the next high to break the downtrend on the 5-day is going to be, I mean, it's clear as day. It is that $72,000. So you want to see this broken. And then, that would be a trend break. And usually you get, when you get a run, you're going to get either it's going to go absolutely bonkers and parabolic and a blue sky breakout and just not stop, or it's going to create more structure, like a higher low and then a higher high, that kind of stuff. So just understand where we are in terms of the longer term timeframes. It is still a downtrend on the 5-day. It's still a downtrend on all the way from the 4-day, 5-day at the moment. We've only just gotten trend breaks on the 2 and 3-day. So the 4 and 5-day, it's still a downtrend. Only just now got the trend break on the 3-day and 2-day structures, right? And it's only just at this moment entering an uptrend on the daily. So context is everything. Let's go ahead and throw some Bollinger Bands on this so that we can get some confluent areas and I can flesh out my thoughts a little bit more about what's occurring here. Yeah, so we have high volatility in this case. We can keep, I guess we can keep the downtrending structure from the weekly 5-day. Where Bitcoin is right now, we have the upper first. I mentioned this on Monday, but the upper first is right around this high at 62,800. So as long as Bitcoin is maintaining closes above the upper first, it is going to be, from a volatility perspective, pointed to the upside, right? Does need to break out of this high side structure right here that it's currently in. So it's actually this high side structure, that it's currently trading in and just below the wick high of this structure right here to then, expand up to the next structure here. So above 66,166, where the upper second standard deviation is, it would actually continue some more aggressive upside expansion, of course, breaking out into test this area that I just spoke of, somewhere around 67,272. And if we see any closures above, definitely $68,000 and then 68 to 70. You can see is on the board from there at the upper third standard deviation. If Bitcoin were to start moving up, you would see the actual standard deviations away from this basis band here actually move with price live. So that would likely be around the $70,000 region. Pit stops in the lower term timeframes, notwithstanding. Now, more importantly, I want you to note that if Bitcoin does close below the upper second standard deviation, that would be a bearish reclaim of this lower high over here from the downtrend. And we would be looking somewhere around, guess what? $60,000, where the basis band of the Bollinger Bands is coming in. Now, if you are new to technical analysis, the basis band, or if you just know just a little bit, the basis band is a moving average. It's a 20 simple moving average. The standard deviations to the upside and downside, the upper and lower bands here, are just 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations away from the basis band to the upside for the uppers and to the downside for the lowers. In this case, it's that's where you want to see things hold, right? That's same basic look that I just talked about in the daily earlier in the video. So, we have confluence, and I want you to understand that the reason why I start these videos the way that I do, and I keep progressing through all of these time frames and then round back to the dailies, because you can see how all of these things fit together. The same numbers keep coming up over and over again, and they're all in our key zones that we were talking about, which is simply the horizontal structure as it relates to trend. So, yeah, I'll be quite honest, this looks good. This is the more preferable of the scenarios for the bulls anyway. And as long as Bitcoin is trading and closing candles above the last daily high or low here at 56,500, which is at the bottom side of our danger zone, trend will remain intact on the daily. I just wouldn't want to see this area reclaimed anytime soon because it would endanger some of the longer term time frame look. So the last thing that I am going to look at, because we do have a 5-day closure, is I want to look at what the momentum pivot is, because that's the only one that I haven't looked at yet. And you can see that there's a projection on this particular Stoke indicator. This is not a freely available Stoke. It's not mine. It's actually by KVDB, you can obtain it by, I believe, going over to Eric Crown's website there. You can get a free stoke that also has pivots. It's called the BA Reverse Stoke Panel. You just search for it. You can just type in Reverse Stoke in the Indicators tab up here, and it will find the BA Reverse Stoke. The nice thing about this paid indicator is it's got a bunch of extra bells and whistles. It also has a little projection on where price is trading. If it would be above that pivot, it just gives you a little indication of likely where the read would be on the next closure. In this case, any close above 62.250 or so would get an initial cross up of momentum on the 5-day. And, from there, we would need to see follow through. We would need to see the next 5-day close above whatever the pivot number is to get a complete cross. And then we can come back to it. So we're going to catch up more on Friday and kind of cover more of the longer term as it relates to, the weekly close coming up. So I will catch up with you all on Friday. Please come hang out or go listen to the Spaces event that was held that I co-hosted with Pepe Ordinals Maxi today. That event was actually education focused, and I'm going to get in contact with that team over there building that platform as, they've got a lot of free resources. It's called Mighty. And it was a great Spaces event. You can listen to it by clicking through. It was recorded earlier today. And then please join me on Friday afternoon. I will be posting an event pretty shortly here after I upload the video. Of course, myself and Goza from Nat Monkeys will be hosting an event with some projects from Bitcoin Startup Labs, maybe even some projects that aren't from Bitcoin Startup Labs as well. We've been having a great turnout there and a great event overall with all of the different community members kind of crossing over from the Welsh community, which, again, is going to be a staple of mine on Tuesdays. I believe it's Tuesdays. Yeah, I think it's Tuesday mornings for me. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday are pretty busy for me in that regard for Spaces events, and might even be packing the schedule with more. So keep an eye on the X profile. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. And with all of that being said, Landy out.